It's the Church of Jesus Christ.
I have a unique perspective on the current attempt to get rid of the Department of Education.
Appointed by President Ronald Reagan as Undersecretary of Education, Gary Bauer had the job of getting rid of the newly formed Department of Education. Back then, the effort to eliminate the DOE was portrayed as anti-education, but the department's waste, fraud, and abuse is now being exposed by the current administration.
The fact of the matter is that the department has basically very little to do with education. It doesn't educate one child. It doesn't run one school. It's a bureaucracy of thousands of people that waste a lot of money.
Even the Department of Education is not mentioned in the United States Constitution. Education is a local issue, but when you had a special interest groups, by the way of the teachers' unions, influenced Jimmy Carter to create a separate department called the Department of Education in 1978, 1979. Look at what has happened to the system of education in the United States of America. So it's so important that we get back to constitutional governance, which means that we will have less of the fraud, waste, and abuse.
Over $3 trillion in taxes has been spent since the Department of Education became operational under Jimmy Carter in 1980. Approximately 80% of students attend government-run schools across the nation. Yet, the Department of Education provides a small fraction of public school funding, somewhere between 6 and 13%, although it touts its service to low-income school communities and individuals with disabilities.
The programs in the department, grants and loans for higher education, programs that provide funds for children with special needs or children from poor homes, those programs are going to be continued, and that money would be sent to the states and local communities to use for those children. So if anybody says something different than that you're hearing on TV, you need to know they're engaged in demagoguery.
In 2024, the U.S. Department of Education spent $268 billion tax dollars to federally fund and control our nation's schools. But is it actually improving American education?
And if you were to compare American educational results prior to the establishment of the Department of Education federally to what happened to our nation after the Federal Department of Education was established, you'll see it hadn't been a success unless their objective was something different than our children being able to read, write, and to do arithmetic. I'm not talking about our excelling proficiency. They're not proficient in mathematics, not proficient in reading, yet we have budgets that are being blown over and over and over. Chicago public schools demanding that there's teachers union, demanding more and more billions of dollars when the children can't read, they can't do math.
Here are the facts. The nation's report card is very telling. 60% of fourth graders are not proficient at math, and 40% don't even meet basic reading levels. 70% of fourth and eighth graders are not proficient in reading. Since the Department of Education's inception, spending per pupil has more than doubled, a 245% increase to be exact. But the results have been abysmal.
They can't do math. It's an aberrant failure. And if we truly care about our nation's prospective outlook, our future, we have to have a competent population, starting with our children. It's an embarrassing mark on our nation, but I'm grateful it seems that we have a president in the Oval Office and a cabinet, frankly, that is looking to make a course correction because we desperately need it. And that's one of the things that we need to happen sooner than later.
The Department of Education oversees 100,000 schools, evaluates the quality of their curricula and extracurricular programs like sports. The DOE has used its power to allow biological males to compete against females in sports and to receive their awards and scholarships. President Trump signed an executive order upon taking office that upholds Title IX and protects women's opportunities. Yet, in public schools in states like California, Minnesota, Maine, and others have yet to comply. But recently, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced a civil lawsuit against the state of Maine's Department of Education for failing to protect women in sports.
The Department of Justice will not sit by when women are discriminated against in sports. This is about sports. This is also about these young women's personal safety.
Although the DOE operates under the shroud of providing programs for disadvantaged groups and protecting civil rights, in reality, it's proven itself a self-serving conglomerate of bureaucrats. An article published by the Heritage Foundation states the Department of Education was created as a political payback to the teachers' unions, and it is designed to advocate for the material interests of the unions and their members, not to serve the needs of minorities. The department is designed to provide benefits to the teachers' unions, not to improve student outcomes.
Liberals and conservatives classically believed that there were foundational truths. It's the secular leftists that we're battling on the Hill. They don't believe there's any truth, they don't believe there's any God, and they believe government is everything. That's who we've got, all of us got to battle that. Whether you happen to be a classic liberal or a conservative, we all have to battle that so that we can have the freedom to actually live lives of faith for the sake of our families and our neighbors. So to me, that's the main issue. Education is going to be the battle line, and I think decentralizing education is the only way we're going to win that battle for our children.
Proverbs says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? So that begs the question, what kind of education are you getting in a public school where God is purposely taken out of the scenario?
Our children are being taught that life, liberty, the virtuous pursuit of happiness, abundant living, all these things can happen without God. So we're literally putting them in school from kindergarten all the way through college, and they're being told not to pray. They're being told that God has nothing to do with their life. We should be educating our children in the foundational truths of their faith, of their civics life, and what actually makes for abundant living. Well, let's not give that over. And right now, the battle for our schools is going to be the biggest battle in our culture.
Instead of empowering students, teachers, and families by providing funding for greater educational opportunities, the U.S. Department of Education has implemented anti-God radicalism and woke politics at taxpayer expense.
The efforts that are articulated as diversity, equity, and inclusion they're really all just Marxist buzzwords. And so it shouldn't be surprising to anyone that DEI initiatives, one, don't accomplish what they purport to accomplish, two, do nothing but divide a populace, because that is what they were designed to do.
Our mission field is wherever God has called us, whether that's in a courtroom, whether that's in a boardroom or in a classroom, or in our home, driving our kids to school, back and forth to ball practice. That's our mission field. We all have the same calling. And no matter what happens in the world, our priorities don't change. We teach people truth, we stand against evil, we praise God in all circumstances and trust Him and keep our eyes focused on Him. He will get us through that. We have the hope of eternity.
So God has entrusted children to our care. And if we are blessed to be able to have children, we have to remember they're not really ours, they're the Lord's. But He has called parents to manage, steward, care for, love children that He has entrusted to our care. We have the primary responsibility.
If you're a person of faith, find a Christian school, homeschool, something, but get them out of the public school now. Now. Don't stop, just do it. Figure out a way. Because, get your churches together, something. But you cannot let the public school indoctrinate these kids any longer.
So regardless of your particular expertise level, one of the major things my wife and I learned, and now we've been homeschooling, and we really call it discipling our children from home, and that discipleship includes the training of their minds. Educating our children at home as a result of this commitment to discipleship puts us in a position where we are directly engaged in rearing them. And one of the things that we have found is that we don't have to be experts in everything. One of the major things that has occurred is that we are learning right along with them. And I simply say, don't worry about the whole long distance, just worry about the very next step.